The last blog before the Dynasty release is here, and we've got a bunch of juicy new info, so let's get started. With new cultures, that means new gods, new legacies, and so much more to play with. When it comes to the Aegean, they're gonna have their own pantheon consisting of Zeus, Poseidon, Ares, Apollo, and Aphrodite. Classic choices, what more could you expect? And we have some pretty strong evidence of their worship back in the late Bronze Age. For example, Poseidon or Poseidio has a lot of Linear B tablets found in his name. Hecatombs are back from Troy, where you offer food as a sacrifice, and the favor of your worshipped god will increase. So all your armies are gonna get a big buff unique to the god, and here, a prayer to Poseidon gives you immunity to sea attrition and increased movement at sea. So that's gonna be pretty good when you're raiding. A prayer to Zeus is gonna boost morale and reduce fatigue, and we all know how important fatigue is in Total War. So if you just want a fist fight, this is gonna be great. The Hecatomb has a cooldown, otherwise it would be too easy to abuse it, and you can reduce the cooldown with research. The Mesopotamian gods are another known classic bunch here. Inshushinak, most commonly associated with the Elamites, Ashur, Assyria's favorite, Ninurta, Ishtar, and last but not least, Marduk. Yeah, the guys whose statues kept being stolen from Babylon whenever it was sacked. Thank you, Elamites. The Mesopotamians can build dwellings of the gods, which are tier 1 buildings that also can be crafted in minor settlements. This will let you get favor with gods easier and give you powerful local buffs. Dwelling of Ashur gives you 6 workforce growth as an example and 18% upkeep reduction. That's gonna be massive for the early game. It's pretty great when you're starting out and you didn't snowball shrine and temple constructions. New cultures means new traditions, and let's take a look at the Aegean. The top title, the king, is gonna be Wanax, just as expected from the sources. A new way to increase legitimacy is gonna be through high-ranking generals, aka heroes. There's an Anatolian and a Greek Eketas, and they're gonna be the commanders. If you have access to these positions, you'll be able to recruit Anatolian and Greek units respectively. Now, 2 new royal powers here are actually insane though. This is gonna allow you to snowball your campaign so hard with the Greeks or Trojans. Remote colonization, and that'll let the Wanax recolonize a settlement from a huge distance. If you can grab a powerful resource, like let's say bronze, you're gonna be having an easy time spamming armies. War games is another feature of the court that lets you rapidly level up your units when you click a button. So this is obviously gonna be a massive buff to veterancy, and we know how important it is actually having high-ranking troops. Does it come as a surprise that the Greek tradition is basically focused around warfare? Absolutely not. Mesopotamia has an interesting new legitimacy factor here, religion. The higher favor you have with certain gods will give you legitimacy points. Now, the thing is, legitimacy points are fairly easy to get in the game. You just gotta spam battles and win them, of course. You could also build some special buildings, but every little bit helps. The King of the Universe, pretty banging title by the way, is the Supreme Ruler. The court also has different kings, as an example, the King of Assyria or the King of Babylon. Every rank has to control the designated city. They'll also have their units available through special recruitment. This is gonna be great if you're campaigning, let's say, in Anatolia as the Babylonians, and you just need your units with you, instead of relying on natives. The 2 new royal powers for the Mesopotamian traditions are pretty interesting here. Agitate will let you provoke a rebellion in nearby territories. That can also let you, honestly, snowball out of control if the rebels succeed in taking the city. And there's the return of a beloved mechanic from the older games, bribing. If you've played Rome 1, you've definitely sent your diplomat to try to get an enemy army to politely disband for a lot of money. Now the question is, in Pharaoh, will the army actually disband, or will they still exist but won't be able to attack? Because here it's just phrased as prevented from attacking. We have 2 new legacies for each of the new cultures. The legacy of Atreus, the totally mythological father of Agamemnon and Menelaus. This is an aggressive, battle-focused legacy, so I think this is gonna appeal to most of the player base. Once you declare war in a faction, you're gonna have objectives to complete against them, like, let's say, defeat their faction leader in battle or conquer their capital, raid, sack, or raise, or defeating a specific target. It'll give you a new resource, dominance, and you can spend this on diplomatical actions, court actions, royal powers, and a limited legitimacy boost. The Legacy of Perseus. This one is my personal favorite from the new ones. Essentially, you're encouraged to form alliances with different factions here. You'll be able to use global recruitment, another returning feature to recruit units from your allies, and the more regions they control, the more you can use global recruitment. We all love to paint the map with our faction colors, but this is going to be interesting if you want a super diverse army. Imagine playing the Greeks and allying with the Egyptians. Hello, overpowered archers. Nice to meet you. When it comes to Mesopotamia, we have some amazing legacies here again. What a surprise. No, it's not. Sargon of Akkad, the ruler of the Akkadian Empire. This legacy is basically focused around ambitions, which are sort of a quest or mission you get in-game randomly. You can have, instead of one ambition as an example, you can have up to 2 regular ones. You can choose the categories: Builder, Conqueror, Diplomat, Raider, Overseer, Strategist, and Warrior. You also get the option to choose a grand ambition, which should be much harder to achieve, but hey, guess what? That's gonna give you bigger rewards. Ambitions are a great way to get some fat resources or special units, but honestly it doesn't deviate too much from the regular gameplay. Still, we're gonna need to see it in action. Now this has the potential to be the most interesting legacy edition of all. Hammurabi, the infamous lawmaker. You'll be able to create your own laws here. So every law has passive modifiers. You have downsides though, because hey, let's stop the player from being completely overpowered. But these buffs honestly seem to outweigh the cost. There's different civic and military laws, so I'll assume here you'll be able to combine a crazy amount of effects just to benefit your playstyle. And now on to something that is definitely gonna appeal to a lot of players because this was one of the most requested features, an actual dynasty system. The beloved family tree is returning, finally. Characters can actually die now. Any battle accidents, accidentally falling off a chariot, you know, because you decided to take a wrong turn somewhere, or hey, you know what, getting assassinated, it's all gonna be a real possibility now. And that's where the family tree kicks in. You'll be able to see the ruling family. So this is gonna be your faction leader, all your blooded offspring, relatives, even some adopted ones. You can appoint your faction heir, aka the scion, who will inherit the faction after you kick the bucket, or in Seti's case, after daddy chokes on another grape. You'll be able to arrange marriage with different characters, randomly generated ones, or marry other faction characters through diplomacy. Actually being able to do this will be great if the diplomatical marriage with other factions will give you something more than just a little boost in relations. That's pretty irrelevant after the early game. It's very easy to bribe the AI to get a favor with them. If you could get an alliance through marriage, that would actually be amazing, give you more power, and discourage some factions from attacking you. But we don't still have the specifics on this. If you're the ruling dynasty, you'll get political marriages. This lets both of the characters remain in their original faction, so unfortunately that seems how they're handling Tausret and Seti, who were historically husband and wife. Now the question is, what's gonna happen after these characters die? Who's gonna inherit this? I'm not saying Total War should copy the paradox system here. God, no. Also, on the other hand, kinda? Imagine you're playing Seti and Merneptah dies. Obviously, you should become the Pharaoh, just like it did happen historically. But what's gonna happen to that land? It would be dumb if you have to fight to reconquer the land that is rightfully yours, but we still don't have any mention how this is gonna be handled. So besides the ruling family tree, you can actually see the dynasty tree. It shows immediate family members and any adopted leader you have. You can essentially get adopted into another dynasty, and if you have enough legitimacy, you can become the heir, which means you can avoid a civil war. If you don't want to slog through the entirety of Egypt, which trust me is just a pain on the map, this could be the option for you. If you decide that peace was never an option and you just want to get your hands bloody, then you're gonna be able to establish a new ruling dynasty. Only 4 dynasties can exist at a time, which correspond to the tradition. So 1 dynasty for Egypt, Hatti, Mesopotamia, and the Aegean. Now this is also a pretty awesome feature for role-playing, deeds. So basically, when your character does something epic in the campaign, you get a new title that you can add to your character. So when we're looking here at this Mesopotamian character, he's the Bane of Assyria, so we assume he kicked some Ass area. Okay, yeah, that was a terrible dad joke, I know. We also have a title scorned by the people of Ashur, which probably means, yeah, nobody likes this guy. I wouldn't like him either. Forced inheritance is gonna let you put your family members in other factions. As we've seen, for example, back in the past, Egyptian pharaohs would marry foreign princesses. Ramses II, you know, our beloved master of propaganda, actually had a Hittite princess as his wife. Well, one of his wives. Being the pharaoh actually lets you do some pretty wild things in real life, dude. Being adopted into the dynasty will let you just become a supporting faction without being the supreme leader according to the blog. But it'll also let you expand the dynasty with other factions once you actually become the supreme ruler. Another addition is legitimacy support. It's very easy to earn legitimacy through battles on Pharaoh. Often you just end up having a crazy amount of it, so you'll be able to exchange it for resources or better diplomatical relations. This is pretty neat, honestly. Another requested feature is turns per year modifying. Some people don't really care about that, some people love having as much as 12 turns per year, whatever floats your boat. This is just another way to customize your campaign experience. The options are 1, 3, 6, or 12 turns per year. Speaking of customizing, you'll be able to choose any ancient legacy in the customization screen before the campaign, any royal power, have random commands, or even, as we've seen before, completely change or remove the lethality feature for battles. You can increase or decrease the general experience gain, how often characters will die, even customizing seasons is making a return. And now you're actually gonna see a lot more wars declared on the map. The sea people are able to settle now. So one big problem with Pharaoh right now is that a lot of the campaign is actually passive. A lot of factions are too scared to declare war on you because, you know what, the sea people are kind of a greater threat in the long scheme. But no, they ain't. It's always the player. Factions will just be reluctant to fight you, they'd rather team up and fight the sea people. This would lead to pretty boring campaigns sometimes, where you just have to force wars. Now the sea people are gonna behave like full factions instead of just being scripted armies. This means that if you're not paying attention, you might have an epic sea people empire form in some other corner of the map once you get there. The Dynasty update will be huge, and the 25th July is just around the corner. Considering this is the end from what we know of any future official content for Pharaoh, let's hope it actually turns out to be epic. Otherwise, we're in for another very long waiting game. Well, if you stuck through to the end of the video, you're a real champ. Hats off to you. There's gonna be a lot more content coming, so stay tuned. And until the next time...